Uh, okay. Anyway, I mean, in every new technology comes the balancing act, right? So how do we help our customers with this, or how relevant is it for our business? And another aspect from an engineering perspective is what is the technical complexity and the costs associated. So today we have two guests to share their expertise, both from product front and engineering front. We have Himanshu, who is a seasoned product expert, and Ram is an engineering director, and he's an advocate of practical AI. I'll let them quickly introduce themselves. So over to you, Ram.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the intro, Nitya. So I'm Ram Sundaram. I'm the Director for Development in Genesis Conversational AI team. So I'm part of the platform team that actually builds the product that supports the AI. This is what I call as where the rubber meets the road. We kind of separate the hype from reality. And yeah, I work on various services and stuff in using microservice architecture related to conversational AI. And my prior stints before Genesis include I was in Broadcom and I was in Microsoft. So been in this field for quite some time when AI was not a buzzword and we really had to write our own code to do stuff. So glad to be here.
Okay. Thanks, Ram.
So as we kind of warm up, Nitya, why don't you, ascertain what kind of an audience we have? How much they appreciate conversational AI, what's their depth of knowledge, and how can AI be fun to learn?
Oh yeah, I mean, probably we can go with a poll. Hope you are able to see the poll.
So you should be able to see the poll on Zoom poll right in front of your screen. Yeah. You're getting the answers now?
Yeah, and those who want to kind of chime in, just unmute yourself and start talking.
So I'll give a few more seconds for. Oh yeah, I mean everybody has responded back. So let me end the poll here. This was sort of little tricky, right? All four options seems good, but then some of them are not exactly the conversational day aspect, especially say for example Grammarly. It is AI, but not conversational day, right? Anyway, expectations. What we have can be like having AI superheroes for our customer service, or it could be like the conversational AI should teach me a new language. Nevertheless, the companies are now in the battleground trying to better each other with this AI powered customer service, right? And with that perspective, Ram, the bot can answer a specific question, or it can school you on what's the latest viral trend. How would you keep or while building such a product, what would be the things that you would keep in mind, especially from an engineering perspective?
Yeah. So for you, when you actually think about building a conversational system, my general observation and what I tell my team is also just to be very user focused and the use case focused. Generally, we associate these things with product management, where you will say, okay, think about the customer and stuff. But in this latest landscape, it's actually very important for the engineers also to be very use case and user focused to be. And also there is a plethora of models there. So you need to be very nimble and very smart about what models that you use or what use case. So as a PM, generally one of the things that it's actually changing in the last few years, especially in the conversational AI space, is there is a more requirement for the engineering and the product management to work very close together. It's not like, okay, there is a charter done and then The PM drops the ball and comes back when everything is done. So there is a very good use case for the product management to be involved in throughout the life cycle of development and trying to understand where the product is going, because things are changing very, very fast. And from the engineering side also, it's actually very crucial for us to be in sync with the product manager so that we understand the use case very clearly. And there are plethora of possibilities in which you can develop a conversational AI system. So you need to keep the cost and everything in mind, and you need to sync with the product management on almost on a daily basis, if not on a weekly basis. And more importantly, where product management and engineering should work together is also to get the correct data, because that's half the problem solved. You have the models out there. What differentiates you from somebody else is how you collect the data and what data you use to train the model. So there again, there is a very paradigm shift in everybody being involved in this data collection effort, and for us to understand the user persona so that you get the correct data and you actually train the model. So yeah, you can build a very generic model, or you can build a very use case specific model. And that's what you would probably look for in this latest way to build a conversational AI, is for product management and engineering to work very close together and to collect the best possible data out there so that you can deliver a very good product.
Yeah, so this synergy, the synergy that you were talking about between the engineering and the product management, that's really acceptable. Again, Anand, how do you think that this would help companies gain advantage over the competition?
Well, good question. And Nitya, I would just put it this way: how did companies gain advantage when they moved from, the Munimji taking care on a pad with a pen, using a calculator, using a computer? AI is a tool, and how best you can harness the tool to your benefit creates the competitive edge. So I don't think we should make AI enigmatic. We should demystify it, because a lot of time it seems that folks confuse AI with the Hollywood movies. And trust me, they are really far apart. That is, romanticizing with AI. Now, you know what? This brings to a nice juncture. Let me ask Ram. Ram, you know what? Maybe not all of us here are savvy with AI. Why don't you help us understand, in a very layman way? We hear about AI, and then we hear about a lot of jargons about ML and DL, and we're talking about conversational AI, and then we have large language models and generative AI and ChatGPT and generic AI. You see, there are like all kinds of different flavors of AI. There's a whole spectrum of it. Help us understand what is at the core of it. Like, how different is an AI versus an if-then-else based logic?
Good. A good question, Anand. So actually, let me actually demystify it for you in a very simple way. If you have an 8th grade or a 9th or 10th grade math book, that's the AI. Essentially, everything at the core, I'm probably oversimplifying it, but everything comes down to matrix multiplication. And then a little bit advanced is, you probably would have heard of, you would have all done your stats course somewhere in your college or in your high school or wherever it is. These are the two fundamental building blocks. So all the speed up and everything that we do is matrix multiplication, dot products, and all those things. And then the second one is a lot of statistics. And these together basically kind of form an area called machine learning, where it's all about the algorithms that are developed on top of it. So machine learning is the algorithmic side of things. And then on top of it, the systems that you build is called the AI system. So when we say, we are deploying AI, you are essentially, what you're saying is, you are saying that I built the AI system. So there is no AI algorithm. Okay. So AI is generally a system, and machine learning, you go one level down. So AI is generally PowerPoint. Machine learning is generally Python code. Okay. And then below that, matrix multiplication and stuff is what you actually write out on your cheat sheet and notes and stuff. So you can easily differentiate between a researcher from a developer to a kind of a business analyst is on these three ways. You go to a researcher's table, then you will see he will probably have a cheat sheet of matrix multiplication. They'll be working out all this summation, blah, blah, blah. And then you come to an engineering side, they will probably be dealing with Jupyter notebook, writing Python code, machine learning algorithms and stuff. Then there is business analysts and other people who present it nicely in PowerPoint. This is how we actually see it, and there are so many memes also on these things. So the core is all math, and then the building blocks on top of it is machine learning, and then the top level systems that you build where everything falls together is actually AI. Now, on top of it, machine learning has been there for years. Like even before this LLM, if you take 5 years ago when LSTM and CNNs were very popular, LSTM was actually that was a paper from 1956 or something like that. Okay, and it's been there for quite some time. What has changed in the last 10 years is the advent of GPU. Somewhere along the line in 2009-10, they figured out that, hey, we need to do these huge calculations, and the traditional CPU wasn't working for it. They always knew the algorithm worked, the neural network thing worked, but they didn't have the compute. So for us to train a model previously used to take like weeks, if not months. And now with GPUs and stuff, somewhere around 2010, 2012, they figured out that, oh, we can use GPUs for this. And that was the paradigm shift that happened, saying that all the papers and stuff that were written in 1997 and stuff like that, LSTM paper kind of came into foray, and people started leveraging, and NVIDIA is a big player there. And that kind of started creating where if you think about ASR, the speech recognition error rates and stuff started dropping down. Then came the transformer paper in 2017 that basically proposed a new architecture to do NLP, and with that proposed a self-attention based algorithm, and that has actually spiked, and that's where we stand now in 2023. And 2022, obviously, in December came ChatGPT and the whole generative AI stuff came. Just on the generative AI thing, what they figured out is, okay, you can frame every problem as a text-to-text problem. So previously, you can say that, okay, if I want to predict whether tomorrow it's going to rain or not, it's kind of like a classification problem. Now with this large language models, they said, okay, let's train a huge model on world's data. Basically, they consume the whole internet, and then they trained it on this huge machines and stuff. And they basically were able to say that every problem can be framed as a generative AI problem. So you can ask it to write a summary, you can ask it to give a recipe, or you can even ask it questions like, will it rain tomorrow or not? And based on the location and stuff that you give, you can probably use a plugin and then deliver the message to you. So that's kind of the shift that has happened over the past few years.
So Ram, that was a very good summary of the AI landscape evolution. So right from intent-based systems to LLMs and beyond, right? That was a good summary, in fact. And if you see, especially from a customer experience perspective, the companies are jumping fast into this conversational AI bandwagon, right? I mean, faster than we could especially think. And it is very critical to identify if a particular product is suitable to employ this conversational AI aspect. So, I mean, it's always good to have a 24/7 super reliable bot for the product, but we'll have to figure out whether it really suits the product. So, how would you determine, or how would you evaluate whether this is the right fit?
Again, I'm not an expert on this thing, but I can add basically, in Genesis, we are primed for this because we deal with contact centers and stuff like that. So everything is probably every use case that we come up in Genesis, we frame it as a conversation use case. Probably not everything, but at least 95% of the use case is a conversation use case. I'm sure there are other applications, But if I think about contact center, the first thing, as I said, one thing that we look for is, does it solve a problem? Is it a pain point for the customer? And do you really need a large language model to solve this problem? So that is something that we actually look for, whether it's a product fit. And as Anand said in the previous thing, can we make a simple rules and stuff to say, can this problem be solved? Most of the times we end up starting that way. Again, with all these AI, one should not forget even a simple rule-based system is a very good baseline for you to start with. Because AI needs data. On day one, you will not have data. No customer will give you data. So you need to put something out there that works, and then you basically get the data that you need. Then you start to build a model and stuff like that. So there is nothing wrong, or you need to be ashamed that, oh, this system is simple, rule-based system. That's fair enough to begin with. And conversation that we think about it can be represented as a knowledge, correct? So when agent and customer are having a conversation, then what we look for is, can we basically mine these conversations and then say that, can we extract knowledge content from this, so that the next time when the customer asks the same question, we are primed to answer that. And this kind of knowledge creation from conversations is actually one of the biggest use cases of large language models right now, because there's a plethora of conversations. Genesis itself deals with close to like 25 million or something conversations per day. And now we are, all these LLMs are primed for this, so that we can mine these conversations and then extract knowledge, so that next day or a week later, when we get the same question from the customer, then are we in a position to quickly train a model and then deliver the answer to them without having an agent or something actually involved, because agent can do something better in that time. Maybe they can really solve like empathetic questions from the customer rather than reply to the same question again and again to the customer. So that's where we see a biggest product fit for this conversational AI is, if you can represent this conversation as a knowledge, and then that can be then mined in various forms. You can automatically create content. You can automatically you can automatically pull in important topics from these conversations and then say that this is the trending topic that is going on. Maybe you released a new product and you are getting good reviews or bad reviews, whatnot. You can quickly do this, all these topics trending from these conversations. So anything that you can extract as a source of knowledge from these conversations is a primed product.
Yeah, so of course, voice assistants, like you said, intent-based and saying, sorry, I can't do that. Now it has evolved to almost being human, right? It's like going from rags to riches. I mean, voice-activated riches. And meanwhile, we have Himanshu as well. Himanshu, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How about you? Can you hear me and see me well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm struggling a bit to turn on my video, but let's continue while
Okay.
I'm not seeing the option to do that. I don't know why, surprisingly.
Sure.
So in fact, we were talking about the product fit. So how would you determine from a business perspective or from a product perspective whether this really requires, or whether it is suitable to employ a conversational AI for this product? What runs in your mind?
So I think as you and Ram also, I think, touched upon this topic briefly a bit in the beginning. There are certain applications which do not really require a very complex conversational AI application. For example, if the objective is to, let's say, provide a digital assistant which can understand predefined intents and respond for simple customer service requests, problems related to an order on an ordering app, etc. Those can be handled with predefined intents, and I think that is sufficient. But the moment you start enhancing the capabilities and the moment you start thinking beyond the basic conversational AI, I think that is where the power and the magic of LLM starts coming into picture. So I would say the starting of application of conversational AI in any use case I have seen starts with a simple application, but it soon evolves into employing LLMs or employing more powerful conversational AI features. This has been my observation, if you ask me personally, both in the CX side as well as on the EX side.
Okay. Yeah. So before we jump, we have a question. Probably Ram is the right person to answer this. So it's Sahil had asked it. Suppose if I ask some question to ChatGPT regarding product discovery from its entire database, how does it decide to give weightage to all possible answers?
So just a correction in terminology. All these models, they don't have a data. As I said, ChatGPT actually literally generates text out of thin air. Okay, so let's say if you're asking ChatGPT about, hey, can you tell me the features of Apple 14 or something like that? Then ChatGPT obviously has consumed so much of data about Apple and various phones and stuff like that. And based on your question, it literally, for lack of better words, spits out answers. And if I break it down in a very simple way, it's as I said, these are all basic math, right? It literally says, given this is the question, what is the probability of these answers? And it actually calculates the probability of every word by word. So given that I've said this as a previous word, what is the probability of the next word and stuff? So for example, in the context of, let's say, in the context of, let's say, geolocations or something, if there is a word called new, then the next word is mostly going to be York, because New York is such a common or well-known place and stuff, just to give you an understanding of how it calculates it. So it's all very much probability based. There is no database that it looks at. And that actually causes a hallucination, because sometimes this probability, because of minute calculations and stuff, can go haywire, and it starts hallucinating, and it might probably think about features that was there in Google Pixel, but it kind of associates that with Apple 14. And then it says that feature is there in Apple 14 itself. So that's where the hallucination happens, because not because there is a database lookup that is incorrect, but it has consumed so much data that, and the probabilities can go slightly wrong, and it starts to hallucinate on that.
Thanks, Ram. So Sahil, you can unmute. So hope it answered your question. If not,
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, this clearly, I mean, the question clearly exposes how the customer's expectation has changed, especially when it comes to the conversational AI. So let me launch another poll, which is similar to this. Are you able to see the poll?
I can.
Yes, now yes.
So, Nitya, can you check there's a question that has come up? I think it's again for Ram.
Oh, yeah. This is more a technical question, especially for the developers.
We wait for the poll to finish?
Yeah, let's wait. Let's give some time for the participants to respond.
Nitya, this is your bridge, correct?
Yes.
Can you check why Himanshu is not getting an option to join, or why, if audience also has an option to switch on the camera, like not join?
No, this is a webinar, so he has joined as an attendee, not as a host. So that's the reason Himanshu is not able to open up his video.
Okay.
So attendees cannot switch on their videos?
No, in a webinar, no.
Okay. If I were to, let's say, take the URL from the LinkedIn event site, will that be helpful, Nitya?
No, that's the host. The one that I sent you, that's the guest. The one I sent you on the WhatsApp is the host.
Yeah, and I think I've joined that. Yes. Okay. No problem. We'll continue.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll end the poll. So conversational AI should understand everything that I say, and it should speak to me like a human. So yeah, I mean, smart expectations. I mean, it's always aspiring, or rather satisfying, to converse with a personalized conversational AI, right? From a business perspective, it is more like a digital Sherlock Holmes. It should know or understand our customers better than we do. Uh, in that perspective, how do we convince the fellow masters in the business realm? For example, Himanshu, can you help us on how do we justify this investment?
In conversational AI, right?
Yep, yep.
So, yeah, I think that is a very important point, especially from a product manager's point of view, because, and I think, it is not just an investment that we have to think about. We have to literally measure the ROI, when we speak to our customers. So we do that, on a regular basis. And this is a very, very important, very subtle, but very, very important area. So the conversational AI investment can be justified initially right from the experience itself, whether it is customer experience or an employee experience, that definitely improves. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We have seen, days when, I mean, we all have worked on IVRs, right? So you remember all those long menus and getting frustrated by punching in digits at least 10, 20 times. And then, even some of us remember WebRTC arriving on the scene, trying to do something more user-friendly, never worked. Here, actually, because you're able to converse and speak your mind, the experience itself improves drastically. So that is the first thing. So that is the first justification for investment in conversational AI. The second is the productivity. So there is first is experience, second is productivity. So you can automate a lot of processes, especially on the EX side. And on the CX side also, you can definitely reduce the time which it takes for a person to get and explain and the help that they seek, and also the agent to perform more efficiently, because you're able to derive decipher patterns and take care of things like that. So that is why it improves the efficiency also. The third and the most important thing is actually improving the efficiency of the business process itself. So we are coming across cases like profitability assurance, revenue assurance, where bots are being interested to continuously check for patterns in project management, contracts, etc., where they can look for, they can predict actually potential failures and traps in the beginning and during the execution of various activities. And lastly, for the decision makers, the CXO level in the organization, they can not only have the data in front of them, but they can speak to the data. They can ask various questions. They can ask any kind of query. So then it falls into the conversational AI oriented realm of BI. So these are the various, I think, ways in which we can say the conversational AI helps. And these are, according to me, the justifications or the ways in which we can actually measure and quantify the ROI for the investment made in conversational AI. Does that help your question, Nitya?
Yeah. So whether it is impressively instant response or a cleverly personalized answer or saving costs by offering a 24/7 support or justifying the ROI. So these are from the business perspective. It absolutely makes sense. Ram, from a technology perspective, would you just care for the thrill of working with the latest technology stack, or how would you choose the right mix of ingredients to meet the stakeholder expectations here, especially
If I have to be
domestically
blunt
being
about my answer, I will say, yeah, thrill of working on the latest tech. But we all want to do that, but we we also avoided because that's not what the business wants. So these things kind of become your side project. And in the case of as I said, it's all about fitting the perfect, finding the perfect use case. That's where the product management comes, understanding the customer. All those things are done by the product management. And then we work closely, as I said, with the product managers and find the best model and then give the metrics that the product management actually needs. Right? So in some sense, we leverage AI to show that AI works. So all these dashboards and optimization and stuff that happen behind the scenes to show that, hey, this is the benefit that you are actually getting. And all those things is where the tech actually can actually help to justify the investment or help the exec level folks to see saying that, okay, this is actually helping. Like, for example, if you are going to build a summarization system, then we can literally measure the after call work and then say that, okay, see, because of this, your after call work has reduced by 60% now. Agents are spending 20 seconds before this to summarize the call and finish up their notes, but now they are only spending 10 seconds or 8 seconds. So, and these smart dashboards and metrics and stuff can also be done using AI. So in a sense, as I said, we use AI to show that AI works. And also one other thing where I kind of see the investment in AI can be justified is also there is the large amount of AI that you see happens in the foreground, right? Very customer facing AI, like quickly answering the question, showing them the answer and all those kind of things. And there is also a lot of AI that needs to happen in the background, like nightly stuff. As I said, the way you collate these conversations and understand what these conversations are actually telling you and then building the correct model. So these models need to be built almost on a daily basis. So there is a good amount of AI that actually happens at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the night when there is no customer interaction. And that is actually where the investment and things can be justified when AI also works tirelessly in the background when there is no customer interaction. So
makes sense. Yeah.
I would just I would just like to add like a summary of what I was trying to say. I would, if I think of it hard, I would say we can divide the investment or ROI primarily in 3 parts. One would be more transactional in nature, where, as Ram said, the reduction in the after call work or the reduction in the time it takes for a person to convey what they want, identification of problem and the time to resolve the issue, etc., etc. All those apply on the EX side also. Let's say someone comes to a bot, asks a question without raising ticket if they can, if the knowledge base is so solid that they can get answer, that is the reduction, because the ticket, would have taken its own sweet time. Agents, of course, have a lot of workload. So these are quantifiable parameters. So I would like to put them in a category called, transactional improvements, which are directly quantifiable. The second category I would say is more about experience. So I think in all the bot, the cornerstone of the design now is to have these thumbs up, thumbs down kind of features by which you can actually measure how much you are improving. And you have data points by which you can, actually measure that. And the third is more about, I would say, the business intelligence side of it, that as by way of improvement of these transactions, overall, my business saw this benefit. In some cases, it is possible to quantify this, maybe by optimization in workforce and with the same workforce handling, the workload more effectively or more workload. And in some cases, the business parameters like profitability and turnaround time, etc., can also be quantified for identifying the impact on the business processes improvement and even to things like improving profitability of the business. So I would like to summarize this into 3 categories, as I said.
Yeah, so Himanshu, incidentally, there is a question in the Q&A, and you had answered that. So the question was, how can business measure the success and impact of conversational AI products, and what metrics are typically used? So I guess you summarized that right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Good.
So I think the question was asked anonymously. Whoever would ask this question, if just let us know if that answered your question, or if not, you can unmute yourself and then ask.
And please unmute anonymously.
Okay. Yeah, so Ram, there was another question which talks about the primary challenges that developers commonly face, right?
So again, here there are two kinds of developers, right? I read that question. Yeah, there are two kinds of developers. There are people who are like machine learning engineers slash researchers. They have a set of problems, and there are actually the software developers slash machine learning engineers again, who have they are the one who are actually going to productize the system. Both these personas actually have a good set of problems that they have to solve. If I just think about the software engineers or the cloud engineers and stuff who actually are building the actual product, one of the things that they really face is, to be honest, is there are so many tools. Okay, literally you can just there is literally a framework being released every month, which is actually good enough. So it's just that you need the discipline to kind of do a proper thorough work on, okay, which framework are you going to use, and then stick with it, understand the pros and cons and stuff like that. And second one actually is one that Anand alluded to, is also like, yeah, do we just for the thrill of it, do we just do stuff? So that is actually because, as I said, everything is very new. There is so much exciting things that is coming everywhere, and that's one of the challenges that you actually say that, okay, I am going to be disciplined and stick to my use case and just deliver on it. Third one is also about being very nimble and fast. Basically, all these things you can go, as I said, you can use the best possible system out there, and that will cost you a lot of money. So you need to always keep that optimization thing in your mind. And that's a huge challenge that actually generally we all face is kind of as a developer, how do I keep the cost down? So do I really need to build a really large language model, or can I just solve it with a smaller model or something? So, and fourth one, if you are especially a software developer who is going to take a research or a prototype code and trying to productionize it, it's one of these challenges I see is everybody needs a basic understanding of what is machine learning and AI. So having that understanding will actually help you a lot. And that's one of the challenge I see. People treat it like a software problem. Most of the time it is a software issue. But having a basic understanding of how data helps and what is the math behind these things, and what is the precision that you lose when you go from a floating point 32 to floating point 16 and stuff like that, those kind of understanding will actually help a lot. So yeah, these are the main challenges that I see, and how can they overcome them is probably, if you are especially going to be a developer in this machine learning AI field, I would strongly suggest take some basic course on machine learning and stuff. You don't have to go deep into anything, but at least you should know, as I said initially, what is machine learning, what is AI, what is classification, what is regression. That basic understanding will help you a lot.
Yeah, so Ram, you summarized it well, right? So from a technical perspective, what are the aspects that we need to look into? And from business perspective, what are the metrics that we will have to look into, which Himanshu talked about. But another elephant in the room is the ethical aspect, whether it is privacy, bias, transparency, data security, user content. The list keeps going on and on, right? So first, I would like to go to Himanshu. So Himanshu, it's not like we are trying to teach a robot not to steal cookies from the jar, right? There are real compliances that we need to meet, and there are regulatory challenges. So from an ethical perspective and these criteria, what's your take on this?
I think that is a very important part of this whole AI evolution, Nitya, that you touched upon, and it is very critical as well. So, as you know, a lot of, and especially from the point of view of conversational AI, because conversational AI, as we know, is related to conversation or the language aspect of human-machine interface, or anything that the conversation is about. So, it is easy to train a large language model on publicly available data, because that is you can say a piece of information expressed in a well-known language, and we can pick that information, we can train the model to predict what the next response should be for a query that it receives. I think up to that point, it's fine. But when you start using the same thing to for use cases within an enterprise, within the enterprise world, I think that is where the problem starts. So if you were, let's say, a user of ChatGPT and trying to ask it a question based on some data or some content that you have, and if you were to ask that question directly on the ChatGPT prompt, I think we all know that the data goes to a cloud service, and of course it is not anonymized. So you are exposing your data to the to the service. If for amateur applications, that is fine, but for serious enterprise application, there could be information which the enterprise just can't afford to go out of their network. And I think that is where a lot of things are converging. So you have models which are trained on large publicly available data, which makes them accurate, which makes them so nice, so good. And then you want to sort of superimpose your data on top of it, or use your data on top of it without exposing it actually to the same provider, let's say OpenAI in this case. So I think what most of the people are doing actually is that they take the publicly available model. So it's like the model which has been made public and it is trained on these large data sets publicly available, and use that. And then you sort of superimpose your data on top of it, have your own set of variables, build your intelligence on top of it. That way, you get best of the both worlds. You don't expose your data, yet you benefit from the advancements in technologies which are available in public domain, and you're able to protect your data and take care of all the compliances, etc. I can tell you many of the applications which are publicly available today, and because of the rapid actually onset of some applications and small companies, many of them actually end up using the same API GPT provided, OpenAI provided APIs in the backend. And I think we have to be very, very careful, because that unknowingly, some of that, data goes out. So long story short, we want to get the best of both worlds. We want to take advantage of advancements in conversational AI using models which are trained on publicly available data, which is fine. And then we need to have some sort of delta layer on top of it in terms of data, as well as definition of parameters. And you can say a model itself, model plus data on top of it, which is fine-tuned for your enterprise application. And I think this is where the meat of the work for the conversational AI companies will be going forward. So, I and many of the people I'm sure on the call who have a lot of experience have seen similar hype cycle in various other technologies, like whether it was voice over IP, which is convergence, or mobile internet and mobile application, etc. So every technology goes through a hype in the beginning, and then it sort of settles down. And I think as the dust settles down in AI, I think this is the way to go for companies which want to make a difference. I think there will be definitely some core, companies like OpenAI and all, which will invest heavily and come up with excellent large language models. And then many companies will adopt those, fine tune it, superimpose it with a layer which actually is best suited for the application that they're targeting. This way, you get best of the both worlds. And it will be responsibility of these companies to make sure that they do a good job with that and ensure that the data does not goes out. It doesn't go out into the public world, which is unprotected. And, the enterprise GDPR compliance, etc., are also taken care of.
Yeah, it makes sense, Himanshu. Basically, Ram, what he's saying is that you guys are building a glass elevator for your code. It should be transparent, but at the same time, meet all the concerns that Himanshu just mentioned. So, how would you approach this from a technology perspective?
Yeah, so I take a question in two aspects, right? One is the ethical aspect and the compliance aspect. So let me first discuss the ethical aspect of it. These models are generally kind of like a puppet. It will do whatever you tell it to. So it will just spit out the data that you gave it for training. Okay, so if your training data is very biased, then the model output will be biased. For example, one of the things that we saw very recently, this is a real world problem, is we were training a model for a specific conversational use case and for a contact center. And all our data that we gave in, it was all regulated and well protected, but in which all the agents were actually female. So the model kind of learned that, oh, an agent has to be a female. So then when we gave a scenario where the agent was a male, when somebody like Matthew says, hey, I'm Matthew, how can I help you? Then the model was saying she, because the model has lost the ability to figure out that Matthew can be is actually a male, because the data that we gave actually is all female data, or most of it was female. So this is the ethical aspect where you are biasing the model to say that this is a particular thing. And there are so many use cases. You can just learn about Amazon, the resume builder that Amazon built kind of went haywire and all those things. So there is an ethical aspect to it to ensure that the data that you're feeding these models is actually not biased and takes everything into account. It's a very hard problem and it's a very manual problem.
Yeah, Ram, sorry to interrupt. So here, do you think building specific pipelines, data pipelines would help?
Yeah. Yes, that is for the regulatory stuff. That's where we build a lot of regulatory stuff. We build very specific data pipelines. There is a DPAA, data protection impact assessment. So every service that we build, we actually have to present a DPAA document to ensure that this is to let everybody know, primarily the legal folks, to know that this is how we are going to use the customer data, and this is the impact of it. This is where we are going to store it, and we will not store it for more than 10 days because of GDPR and so on and so forth. And there are very country-specific rules and stuff. For example, India says our data cannot leave India. So it has to be stored in the Mumbai AWS center or something like that. So every country has their own, what they call as PII and all those things. For these, we actually build very specific data pipelines and stuff. And, but again, you cannot have the cake and eat it too. So, but you need data to build these models. So this is where the LLMs and stuff come into picture, where we are kind of leveraging the synthetic data that these models can produce. So we can show an LLM saying that, hey, generate me a conversation data between an agent and customer for healthcare domain like this. You can show it a few examples and ask it to generate hundreds of examples. Then you can fine tune your custom models and stuff that you want to build by leveraging the synthetic data that is given by these LLMs. Of course, they also have to be curated, but that's one way to solve the problem, saying that you take very little amount of customer data, but you can generate more data similar to that. So yeah, the main thing is being very cautious, following the rules, have a DPIA, and then, but of course, you still have to build the models.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Nitya. And Ram, this is good, segue into how we would like to see what comes in maybe the next, hour of discussion that we can go on AI. And you brought up this idea of synthetic data that kind of pushes me to think about adversarial learning, or making one algorithm or one machine learning engine or one AI engine fight against another AI engine and teach each other, right? I mean, we see it a lot of times when we look at self-driving cars, or when we look at detection of face, AI using methods to detect face. And a lot of times, the unscrupulous folks would try to, defeat AI. I have seen that on the airport, if you wear a cap which has eyes built on it, AI gets confused because it has not learned four-eyed face. So it does not understand if it's a human or if this is the face on the cap or on the eyes. Now, my question to you is, and then we can move forward with that, what do you think when you are working with AI needs to be fixed? The data or the algorithm, or both?
So I will add a third one to that. It's a very good question. It also needs to some extent a cooperative user. Okay? So instead of treating AI as a enemy and or trying to outsmart it, if you can think about it like, okay, it has helped me solve a task. Let me help it solve a task. Okay. So you gave this airport example, right? Yes, it is very complicated. If you wear a cap with ice on top of it, it will get confused. So a simple way to say it is, okay, I'm going to help it. I'll just take out my cap and then just scan my face and move on. Because your goal is not to challenge the system, is what I feel, is to just say, okay, there is a technology, and if I can make it work by simply removing my cap and get my eyes scanned or something like that, then everybody is happy. The next guy behind you will not be waiting and stuff. You just move on. That is the first one. Is actually the third one is also to treat it as a very cooperative thing rather than being very adversarial, because I see it in a lot of times whenever we present a chatbot and we say this is a weather chatbot. Yes, you have to test it a lot, but somebody will come and ask a cricket score. Okay. So the first question we say, okay, try it out on the weather thing, and the remaining things that we will fix. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Second one is actually what you say is, to me, data is more important because and there are so many studies and stuff. Initially, it used to be give me more data. Now with LLMs, it has come down to be give me very curated data that I can really solve the problem. Algorithm has its own space, definitely, and that's not accessible to everybody, right? In the sense, you really need really smart people to push the needle. I'm sure there are a bunch of folks working on that, but everybody can improve an AI system by giving it proper data for that particular use.
So let me give you another example, okay? And I was looking at I was reading through one of the articles, and it figures that even ladies with makeup can confuse AI. Okay, so I think as of now AI is in a
confused as a human also. I have been confused with and without makeup. So anyway, continue with your
They do. You fall in when they have the makeup on, and then you run away. Okay, after they wash their faces. But let's not get sexist about it. So there's a very good question here, and I think that's a good segue to our next session, because it's just 2 minutes into this call left. I mean, so as the field of conversational AI evolves, and I would say as the field of AI evolves, not just keeping it to conversational AI, what emerging trends or technologies should I wouldn't say product builders, but product folks should keep an eye on? And I think both Himanshu, you and Ram can chime in and give us our perspective about where do you see the evolution of AI is happening. What do you think are the new set of things that are coming in? And I'm hearing a lot around generative AI, but I'm sure this is not the sky. The limit is still further out there. And I know a few things that I can think about and I have been hearing, but I'll let the experts kind of chime in. Himanshu, you want to go first?
Sure. So couple of things which come to my mind, which actually are happening at a very rapid pace. So, and in fact, we touched upon one of those briefly just a minute ago. So I think synthetic data is one thing which is really getting important, because you can't get naturally generated data, enough of it, I would say. You do have data, but we want to push the model to its limit and make it more and more accurate and get more accurate results. And in a way, synthetic data also takes care of the privacy concerns, somebody's data being exposed, etc. also. So if you look at it from that point of view, actually it's good. It has a lot of benefits. Of course, it does have some pitfalls also, but maybe for another time. Then there is also something called creative AI, which is coming. So generative AI and creative AI being used in almost interchangeably. And AI being an overall human-machine interface in any area. So not just in conversational, but even conversational AI being used in many other applications. And the last thing which comes to my mind is, of course, ethics and regulation that we spoke about. These are few things that I feel, come to the top of my mind if you ask me this question. I'm sure, there could be more. For example, I'm sorry, I forgot. One important thing is, the digital twinning, as we call it, or Copilot. That's the buzzword these days. You have Copilot in everything. You have GitHub Copilot, you have Microsoft Copilot, and there are bots of every kind. Bots for contact center, bots for employee assistance, bots for revenue assurance, bots for education maybe. So I mean, you could have actually a bot replace your teacher maybe in some time, which becomes so intelligent that you can ask questions as if there is a teacher who is trying to guide you and help you through your doubts, etc. So I think these are some of the points. Just to summarize, creative or generative AI, synthetic AI, synthetic data, human machine interface as a wider topic, not just conversational AI. Ethics and regulation and privacy, as we discussed. And the last one I would add to that list is digital twinning. Whether you are a coder, whether you are an artist, whether you are a contact center agent that we discussed in detail, in fact, today, anywhere and everywhere you can have your digital twin, which is like a big brother, helping you out in whatever you're doing. So these are some things which I can think off the top of my mind.
Yeah, so Himanshu, whatever you're saying is like a quantum leap for me. So, where does this lead us to? Probably I can have a personalized companion or a philosopher or a guide who can offer me wisdom infused advice in the future. Just a quick time check. We are past the scheduled time. So, before we close, I would like to keep the floor open for questions. Participants, please unmute yourself if you have any questions. Ram and Himanshu can help you figure out.
So just I have one point to add to what Himanshu also said about the future, and I'm sure I'll be 100% wrong on this. But one of the things that is going to come in the near future is also keeping the cost down. So there is already a lot of kind of effort going in that space. For example, OpenAI is spending roughly $700,000 every day to keep their ChatGPT up and running. So there is an article that said they will be running out of money very soon if they don't keep the cost down. And that's true for every company that is actually using this conversational AI. So that's going to be a very kind of field where they are going to kind of make this, trying to make this model much more cost efficient and also bring it to your devices. Essentially, can you do a edge device kind of detection using this large language model? So those are the probably short-term trends I see that is going to happen apart from all the use cases that Himanshu suggested.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's a very valid point. Yeah, because we have heard about things like ocean cool data center and all. I'm sure you guys, all of you must have seen videos. And AI is so compute intensive that what Ram mentioned may appear as a very simple point, but is very, very important.
Yeah. Thanks, Ram and Himanshu. So from our attendees' perspective, any questions you have, please unmute yourself. And
we have a question on the chat. What resources, tools, or platforms are available to help developers learn and implement conversational AI effectively? I would say there are a bunch of online courses there, Udemy and all.
Yeah, I would say nothing beats YouTube. I will take this question. Nothing beats YouTube. You can just search for anything and everything. It depends on what kind of development that you want. If you're looking at pure machine learning, just go to YouTube, and Stanford has put all their courses out there, and you can just literally use whatever that you want. And also second one, again, which practically helped me is also, if you just watch a video, it will probably be there with you for 3 days, and then fourth day you'll probably forget it. So getting your hands dirty, right? Just go and build something. It will be a colossal failure, but failure teaches you a lot. And you remember your failed experiments than the successful experiments. So just get your hands dirty. Just download any framework and use it, and that's the best way to learn. Third one, personally, is also there's a lot of very good human beings, I would say, who have just spent a lot of time creating these blogs that will literally spoon feed you what you want to learn. So there is numerous blogs. For example, one of the ones that I follow is James McCaffrey from Microsoft. He's a developer. He brings machine learning from a developer point of view. So he puts in all these small code snippets and stuff out there. He regularly blogs. You can search for James McCaffrey WordPress. And he basically shares his thoughts and puts the code out there, which you can learn and say, oh, this is how this matrix multiplication is happening. Okay, now I get it. And then you can go and correlate it to the paper that you're reading or whatever it might be. So blog, YouTube, and get your hands dirty.
And I would just add to that, especially for the people who are beginning, I think it's okay if you start from higher level implementations, like using the GPT, framework APIs to start seeing things in action first, and then going deeper into the core AI and machine learning, and then the statistical aspects of it. That helps at least help me a lot. So start from the practical applications of it, and then dig deeper, go layers deep into it. So just an advice and addition to what Ram said.
Great. So it was a great session. Yeah. So we are approaching the end. I would like to thank Ram and Himanshu for taking out their time and then sharing their insights. So Anand, would you like to conclude this?
Sure, Nitya. So first of all, yes, thanks, Himanshu, to take out your valuable time, and Ram, on a weekend. And then I would like to thank all the audience which has joined to hear us over this weekend, and the panelists. I think you guys all did an amazing job. I really love the presentation. So Bansi, you did an amazing job there. So all coming together. And I think it kind of provokes thoughts, what I would like to hear and see some of these new developers and, investment coming in. And how about taking Meta and then taking generative AI? And generative AI, as Himanshu or Ram, both of them said, it's not about finding a database. It's about creating new. You can create new world, new video, new pictures, new phrases. So why not create new meta on the fly and then just kind of burn it together and bring this new, I would say, simulated world where you could literally live there, drive your car there, learn how to drive, how to create self-driving cars or self-driving planes, whatnot. So I think the world of future AI is immense, and then go forward from there. So there's a lot of food and food for thought, and there are a lot of good questions out there. I think let's kind of keep exploring it, keep diving into it, keep reading about it, and keep inventing. So with that, I would say thanks again for this wonderful 1 hour of time spent.
Thanks a lot, Anand, for giving me the opportunity to
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
And I look forward to more discussions among all of us in future as well.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, speakers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.